the practice of remembrance, remembering God. I'm going to read the great passage in which this teaching is given, and then we're going to chant La-ilaha-il-Allah, and then I'm going to unravel the esoteric secrets, which are usually not given, but since we're at the end of everything, everything is given. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. This is the Light Sutra, the Light Surah. And there are about 3,000 commentaries by the greatest Islamic mystics on these lines that begin the Light Surah. It is a very complete vision of how the light penetrates everything. God is the light of the heavens and the earth. The simile of God's light is like a niche in which is a lamp. The lamp in a globe of glass, the globe of glass, as it were a shining star, is lit from a blessed olive tree, neither of the east nor of the west. Its light nearly luminous, even if fire did not touch it. Light upon light. God guides to this light whomever God wills. And God gives people examples. And God knows all things. The light is in houses which God has allowed to be raised, that the name of God be remembered there, where God is glorified in the mornings and the evenings, by people who are not diverted by business or commerce from remembrance of God and persistence in prayer and giving of alms, as they fear a day on which hearts and eyes will be transformed, that God may reward them for the best of what they did and grant them even more from the grace divine. Listen again now with total concentration to what is being said here. The Light Surah begins with a magnificent set of images about how this light penetrates everything from its mystery and creates everything while remaining always transcendent to everything it has created. And then it becomes, as the Prophet always becomes through the inspiration of Allah, absolutely grounded and practical, because you're given a way to experience this light, to be blessed by this light, to be permeated by this light. The light is in houses which God has allowed to be raised, that the name of God, La-ilaha-il-Allah, be remembered there, where God is glorified in the mornings and the evenings by people who are not diverted by business or commerce from remembrance of God. We have to work in the world, we have to do whatever work we have to do, but the lovers of God are not diverted by their work from the main purpose of life, which is to remember God, so that God can fill their life with knowledge of their divine truth and fill their life with grace and blessing. God is radiating the light. That's God's job, and God does it brilliantly. Our job is to remember God so that God's irradiation can become our conscious enjoyment, our conscious joy. And so that the divine can penetrate us at deeper and deeper levels until in the end we are created again as what the Islamic mystics call the Insan al-Kamil, the perfect human being, God in a human being. The light is in houses which God has allowed to be raised, that the name of God be remembered there, where God is glorified in the evenings and mornings by people who are not diverted by business or commerce from remembrance of God and persistence in prayer and giving of alms. The three great injunctions of the Koran. Always remember through the great mantra. Always pray for what you most deeply need from the infinitely merciful and compassionate one who listens to every prayer and answers every prayer. And no is an answer. And giving of alms, serving others, feeding the poor, always, always paying deep attention to those in need and helping others. From remembrance of God and persistence in prayer and giving of alms, as they fear a day on which hearts and eyes will be transformed, as they await the great judgment, when all beings will be judged on what they have done, as they fear a day on which hearts and eyes will be transformed, that God may reward them for the best of what they did, and grant them even more from the grace divine. Very noble and sublime words. So in Sufism, the essential practice is the practice of remembrance. And just as Hinduism has at its core the practice of the mantra, Sufism at its core is the practice of this great mantra, La-ilaha-il-Allah. In the Quran there is a monumentally beautiful saying which Allah says, and it's very simple, but it goes to the depths of what this practice actually means. So please listen, because this is not poetry. Allah says, remember me, and I will remember you. Remember me, and I will remember you. That sounds sweet, doesn't it? But actually, it's the key of keys to the practice. I practiced the La-ilaha-il-Allah for 30 years. And then in my 60s, I went for the third time to Konya, where Rumi is buried, although to say that Rumi is buried is ridiculous, because Rumi's tomb is like a nuclear reactor of divine passion. He is certainly not dead in any way. And it was a particularly ecstatic and transformative visit for me. And I was living in New York at the time. And I came back to the shabby little place that I was living on the Upper East Side. And I put down my bags and I lay down exhausted on my bed. And I practiced the La-ilaha-il-Allah out of gratitude for the enormous graces that I'd been given in Konya. And as I practiced, I understood far beyond reason the truth of remember me and I will remember you, because I knew as I lay on that bed that the creator of all of the universes was turning towards this ragged, wild old Englishman lying on a bed in New York with total love and total compassion and total attention. I believed it, and that's why I practiced it. But there came a moment when I knew it, and I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed with ecstatic gratitude. And as I sobbed, the room in which I was in began to disappear. And it was as if I was on a raft in a great ocean of light. And from the sky of that great, wild, holy ocean poured purple light. I'd seen many of the divine lights through the grace of the Beloved, but I had never seen the purple light. And the purple light is the light of royalty, the light of royal compassion, ultimate, final compassion. And this light drenched my whole being. And that's why I wear on this hand the amethyst, to remind me of that experience, so that it will always be with me. La-ilaha-il-Allah. There is no other God but God. And one of the things that my Sufi teachers taught me is that the name of God, that is Allah, is the name in which all the different powers of the divine are concentrated. So when you say Allah with true devotion, true sincerity, all of the powers of the divine are concentrated through that name on the depths of your being. Allah means something extraordinary. It means the no thing. The no thing, meaning you will never understand it. Its mystery is beyond anything that even the angels can comprehend. It cannot be put into even the divinest scriptures. The transcendence of Allah, who yet through a miracle of magic lives in and as everything, is always beyond the power of the human to comprehend, the power of any creature on any level to comprehend. And there's a beautiful story, an old Sufi story about a great sheikh of Afghanistan who lived in the desert. And he had a group of handsome young men as his chief disciples, because it was a warrior class, and these were great guys. He loved them, but he wanted to give them an ultimate teaching. So he took them one day out into a plain where there was a deserted palace. And this palace had been created in a magical way because each of the walls of this palace had been mixed with very expensive perfumes. The clay had been mixed with very expensive perfumes. So he encouraged his guys to go around and smell the extraordinary aromas of the crumbled walls of this great palace. And they were inebriated and intoxicated by all of these marvelous perfumes, and you watched them amusedly as they staggered wonderfully from room to room. But he was sitting in a large open window with leaning back into the desert wind. And when all of them had sampled all of the perfumes of all of the rooms, he said, "It's wonderful that you've enjoyed all of these perfumes, but I'm enjoying the ultimate perfume. I'm leaning into the desert wind that smells of nothing." That is the highest aroma, because the no thing is what liberates you finally into the essence of your non-existent existence, your transcendent existence through the grace of the divine. So there are three meanings of La-ilaha-il-Allah. And when we practice it, I want to invite you to really work with all of these meanings in intense devotion in the core of your heart. The first meaning, there is no other God but God, is nothing else exists but God. Only God really exists, because everything that appears is born and dies, but only the divine, that is the source of all creation, lasts forever. There is no other God but God. So take that in. The second meaning is, since there is nothing that truly exists, that finally and eternally exists, but Allah, but the no thing, worshipping anything else but Allah, worshipping money or power or sex or fame, having any other idol in your heart mind but Allah, is a fatal mistake and will mire you in illusion and prevent you from the greatest, sublimest joy imaginable, that of discovering through the grace of Allah that you are a light drop of Allah's infinite ocean of light. So when you say La-ilaha-il-Allah in the second meaning, what you're really saying is, I swear on my soul that I will fight my tendencies to false worship of other things, and I will devote the deepest energies of my whole being, heart, mind, soul, and body, to worshipping the only true reality, the only final reality. So that's the second meaning. And for the Sufis, the second meaning contains the entire path. La-ilaha-il-Allah means there is no other God but God. So for the Sufi, the first part of the mantra La-ilaha is what you have to work through on the path. All the other idols you worship, most importantly, of course, yourself, the dreadful narcissism with which we are all so appallingly afflicted, the dreadful self-absorption that we are all, especially when we don't know it, so mired in. you work on eliminating your attachments to everything so that the last part of the mantra can become your constant illumination. Allah can become what you are in connection with, what you are seeing, what you're witnessing, what you're loving at all moments, because you've entered into, through grace, union with Allah. And the third meaning is very, very subtle. If there is nothing else that truly exists but Allah, then who is saying the mantra? Allah is saying the mantra in you, through you, using your voice. So the Allah in you is saying the mantra in and to Allah. And when you begin to experience the truth of this, the mantra La-ilaha-il-Allah becomes something indispensable to you, because the act of remembrance through the saying of a mantra is a remembrance not only of you, of Allah, but of Allah, of you, in you, through you, as you say the mantra. So the mantra becomes a form of divine love-making between the beloved in you and the beloved in the cosmos. And that's when the mantra becomes something unspeakably beautiful and holy and amazing and transformative. So now, in honor of this sublime tradition, let us say the La-ilaha-il-Allah 9 times. La-ilaha-il-Allah. 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 I'm going to end this brief sharing on this mantra, which I hope you will be enchanted to say as we enter this Sufi mystery that is the Taj Mahal, by reading you my favorite of all the Islamic prayers. There was a woman called Rabia, and she lived in the 9th century. She was a slave girl who was bought by a sensitive and intelligent master who, seeing the depth of her devotion, released her from her life of slavery, and she entered into years and years of silent contemplation, and she became the great master of her time, the one to whom all the guys went for deepest instruction. And Rabia made a discovery in the depths of her soul that forever changed the world. It changed the whole of Islam, and it changed the whole of Islamic poetry. And the great Persian poets who adored and venerated Rabia would never have been able to write the poetry they did without her, because she discovered that Allah was the beloved. She was the first person in history to call God beloved. You may think that's an easy discovery, but if you read the Quran, you'll be so overwhelmed by the majesty of the divine in the Quran that thinking of God as your intimate beloved will seem so strange. But the real truth is that that eternal, shattering majesty is also, through a gift of intimacy, your beloved. And Rabia's discovery of that as a woman, hopelessly and finally in love with the eternal, is one of the discoveries that has changed the religious life of humanity. And I want to read you the prayer. She wrote 11 poems, and they are all perfect. And this is the most perfect of them. O Lord, whatever share of this world you could give to me, give it to your enemies. Whatever share of the next world you want to give to me, give it to your friends. You are enough for me. O God, my whole concern and desire in this world is that I should always remember you above all the things of this world, and that in the next I should meet with you alone. And that is why I always pray, your will be done. O my Lord, if I worship you from fear of hell, burn me in hell. And if I worship you from hope of paradise, bar me from the gates of paradise. But if I worship you for yourself alone, grant me then the beauty of your face. The path of love will take you, if you die into love, to the placeless place when you love the divine for the divine's own sake, not out of fear of being judged and not out of hope for reward, but out of ecstatic awe and wonder at the divine itself. O my Lord, if I worship you from fear of hell, burn me in hell. If I worship you from hope of paradise, bar me from its gates. But if I worship you for yourself alone, grant me then the beauty of your face. we're going towards the most beautiful monument in the world. And as you'll see tonight, that prayer of Rabia's has an enormous significance for the true understanding of the Taj. Because the Sufis knew the beauty of the face of God, the experience beyond words of seeing and feeling and being penetrated by the inexpressible radiance of divine love. They knew that that was the only thing worth pursuing in this life. Everything else was trivial compared to that. And because they knew that divine love was, as the first phrase in the Koran says, all merciful and all compassionate, the Sufis rarely talked of judgment and rarely talked of heaven. What they wanted, and what all of us who have loved and pursued Sufism want, is the experience of love itself. One of the greatest Sufis, a man called Al-Jilani from Baghdad, said, the lovers are loved by their love. So in Sufism, if you're loving God for any kind of reward other than an immeasurable deepening of your own love for God, you're missing the whole path. Love God with all your heart and mind and soul and body, and the ultimate reward won't be fame or health or long life or a wonderful sexy beloved or a Maserati or a Lamborghini. The reward will be an intensity of such depth of love inside yourself that you will already be living in paradise here. You'll be already living the divine life. Think and feel deeply on these things. La-ilaha-il-Allah. Quran, but the second are the hadiths, the sacred sayings, in which the Prophet received direct messages from Allah, and these sayings are in the voice of God Himself, herself. And these sayings are the sayings that the Sufi teachers lived by. All of Sufism, in all of its elaborate and amazing complexity, comes from the stark and astounding simplicity of these sayings. And they are more precious than diamond to the mystic, because they speak of ultimate truth in the utmost clarity. So I'm going to share with you the 4 sayings that were most precious to the Sufis on the path of love. The first saying, and remember that these are all in the voice of God. They're not the prophet saying this. It's ultimate truth speaking clearly in language as far as it can in language. The first saying is, I was a hidden treasure and I wanted to be known. That is why I created the world. I was a hidden treasure. Transcendence knows only itself. To know what it's capable of, it has to emanate creation, invent, play, expand infinitely in millions and millions of directions. In the Arabic, the word for wanted is much more intense than wanted. It's lub. I longed to be known. I yearned, I burned, I ached to be known. So out of the depths of transcendence, a longing to be recognized and seen and known in relationship arose. And that is why I created the world. The Sufi's quest is for that hidden treasure and to be one of those who know the beloved, so the beloved can have the joy of being known. And that is one of the greatest and happiest secrets of the mystical path, which you will experience if you haven't experienced it already, and that is that as you awaken to the great joy and the great love, you not only feel your own joy and love, but you also feel the great joy that the divine has in your joy and in your awakening. And that is a mystery that no one can explain, but it explains a little of the depth of love, that this is a love that isn't just giving, it's so hungry also to receive our love. The second great saying that the Sufis of all the centuries held close to their hearts until it became real to them. Again, it's Allah speaking. I cannot fit into my heavens or into my earth, but I fit into the heart of my believing servant. The divine is utterly transcendent of any universe, any creation, lost forever in its fathomless splendor. It cannot fit into any of its creations, but through its own mystery of grace, it can fit in its resplendence in the heart of the one who loves. Because what will be revealed to you on the path of love is that you are that. That when you awaken, it won't just be to what is living inside you. That will be amazing enough. You won't just awaken to being the beloved of the beloved, you will also awaken to being the beloved. That's the madness of what we are through grace. The madness of being a being created by grace to experience the Godhead living in us as us. And this is a grace so immense that it explains why the path is so savagely difficult. Because this great gift cannot be given to anyone who hasn't been completely and emptied and purified of their false self. It cannot be given. You cannot pour this burning wine into a dirty cup. The cup has to be cleaned completely to be able to hold such a revelation. But that revelation is the ultimate imaginable experience. The third great hadith that puts this very pithily goes like this: he who knows himself knows his Lord. The uncovering of your deepest self is simultaneously an uncovering of the self, the Lord. So as you struggle on the path, as you sweat and doubt, remember that at the end of the journey is this revelation of yourself as the self, the eternal, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient self. This is the miracle that only the lovers get to participate in, and it's worth everything. And then this last very mysterious hadith, which echoes something I was trying to convey to you yesterday. And that is that the authentic path to divine love will, in the end, not only transform your mind, not only transform your heart, but also, through its mysterious power, remake your body, so that your whole being enters into direct, naked union with oneness. This secret has been known at the heart of all of the mystical traditions, but it was very rarely shared except amongst a few adepts because of its seeming insanity, its great holiness, and the dangerous kind of power that it could give those who were pursuing the path for their own subtle ego ends. But if you listen to this hadith carefully, you'll see that this secret flames out from it. My slave. Islam means submission, and the Sufis call themselves the slaves of God. My slave does not cease to draw near to me with devotion of her own free will until I love her. That's a very, very strange and mysterious phrase, but what it means is that although the divine loves us always, we really don't begin to experience that love in its intensity until we have turned up in mystical practice and in devotion, clearing ourselves, cleaning ourselves, purifying ourselves, so that we can actually receive such a blazing fire of passion. My slave does not cease to draw near to me with devotion of her own free will until I love her. Until I've seen that he or she has arrived through deep humility and passion and devotion and suffering and yearning to that place where I, Allah, can turn and reveal myself to her so that she can experience the love that has always been shown her, always been guiding her, but now at last she is ready to receive. And when I love her, when the full force of my majesty is turned towards the lover, capable of receiving that love, and when I love her, I am the hearing with which she hears, the sight with which she sees, and the foot she walks on. Meaning that when that love turns its full force on you and you become conscious of that force and you work with that force and you pray for that force to become ever more possessive of your whole being, a miracle through grace takes place in which your humanity is transfigured into divine humanity, and your senses, purified, illuminated, and transformed by the power of love, become consciously the divine senses, experiencing themselves through you. You see in a completely different way. You see the same things, but you see them with a tenderness and with a delicacy and with an intense precision that you have never seen before. You hear the mystery behind what people are saying and the mystery in what people are saying. You hear music completely differently after your transformation. And you become aware that the life force in you is not your life force. It is love's power. So it's love's power that is moving my hand. It's using Andrew's hand to move and spread love between you. It's love that is walking in your feet. You see, the path of love is not just about loving love. That is the first indispensable condition. The path of love is about loving love so intensely that you can become ready to receive love naked. And then love naked transforms you into a hologram of love. You don't just love love, you become love's body. And when you become love's body, you become a walking radiation of grace in the world. And that is the deepest longing of all Sufis, of all those on this great path of divine love in Islam. To become God seeing, God hearing, God speaking, God walking. Go for it.